women, and I will let Severina tell you a lot more about all of this. Hello, everyone. As you all already know, I am Severina. I'm the communications director of the network. And I would like to start the event with a couple of disclaimers. So, the first one, it's an interactive panel. So if you could next slide, please. Just scan the code or follow the instructions on the screen. You could actively also answer some questions I'll be asking tonight. And yes, you will be graded on that. No, just kidding. It's completely anonymous, so we don't know who gives the answer, so you can go a little wild. So, second disclaimer, this is a neurodiversity event with a neurodiverse panel. And as you're soon going to find out, time blindness is one of very common symptom in neurodiversity. So I recommend you tell your family, pets, or babysitter that you probably won't make it home tonight.
Sabrina.
You have to start the
Maybe.
I thought you were going to say we're all running out of time.
Either we're staying here the whole night or we're finishing in 10 minutes.
We're so like, it's going to be over time, isn't it?
So you have to start. We do have an IT director. Okay, well, I was just making a joke. We did put accommodations in place to keep us on track of time. So if you see somebody aggressively gesticulating some colored cards, please ignore it first. The last one is, well, I'll be your moderator for tonight, and I make a lot of jokes when I'm nervous. Some are going to be super funny, some probably not so much. Just maybe help a sister out and laugh at all of them. That would be super nice. And, well, why am I nervous? Thank you for asking. I would love to tell you more. And it's because of, well, public speaking. So when Mariana first asked me if I would consider moderating the event, my first reaction was like, hell no, absolutely fucking no. I'd rather go sit in oncoming traffic. Thank you very much. Yet, here I am. So we can all agree, Mariana's a witch. Actually did the grown-up thing, and I started to do a little bit of introspection, and it took me a minute, but I started to find out why I didn't like public speaking. And it is because I have all eyes on me. And unfortunately, I do know that if you look at me for a little longer than usual, you will start to notice little things. A lot of people cannot really tell what's going on, but they do realize or notice that something is up, something is not really real or authentic, because, well, it's not. It's all fake, and I am an imposter. So unfortunately, I had to become one because I did realize as a child very early on that something was very different about me. And unfortunately, soon after, people around me started noticing too. And as lovely teenagers, we all know, I got very cute little pet names in high school, like Freak, Monster, my personal favorite one, Witch, but also Sociopath, Psychopath, and Wasted Potential. That one hurt. Yeah, so I wanted to be included. I wanted to be part of the society. I didn't want to get bullied. So I started focusing on pretending to be normal. So I started practicing facial expressions. I started practicing tone of voice. I watched a lot of sitcoms of very, very lovable characters to analyze their interaction with people and what made them so likable. And then I started to create this personality, this persona, which is literally just a mixture of memes, Lorelai Gilmore, and Phoebe Buffet. And then, after so many years, you got this. You got Severina, ambitious, independent, beautiful, funny, hilarious, right? Fun to be around, extroverted, social butterfly, like Mariana likes to call me. Which is not really me. It's actually a mask. And this is why we are here today. We are unmasking all of it. So I'm going to take the mask off. Not just kidding. It's not how it works. It's a process. You'll find out very soon. But I did find out that I was different on an event, very similar event last year, and I was organized by IMS. And we have a surprise guest here tonight, which made me realize that, in fact, I was different. But I was not a psychopath. My best friend would laugh at that one. And unfortunately, I'm also not a witch, but I am neurodivergent. And so, because it has changed my life in such profound way, we at the network decided to organize an event on neurodiversity, because if it can help one of you as it has helped me, we did like a great job. And with no further ado, and because my idea of a TED Talk / stand-up comedy idea for this event was denied by the board, let me introduce you to our fabulous panel. So, first we have Mélanie Schmaltz. Diagnosed as a kid with ADHD and dyscalculia. Yeah. But this did not stop her in getting a master's degree that was full with mathematics in neuropsychology. She is now a neuropsychologist at Neurofeedback. She also has a really cool cat. Then we have Antonia Quinton. Some neurodivergent people actually hyper-focus on topics that really interest them. And Antonia took it one step further. She made me speak proper English. Took it one step further, and she actually got a certification on her own neurodiversity. And I think this is why she is probably one of the best ADHD coaches and consultants in Luxembourg. She also has a really cool Facebook group on ADHD in Luxembourg. You should check that out. And then we have Sabrina Aristei. Forgot to ask. Sabrina has an impressive PhD in cognitive neuroscience, and she's also part of the interdisciplinary team, I hope you look at that, for diagnostic assessment for people on the autism spectrum disorder. And she was diagnosed by all of us, so as also neurodivergent, because if you like to hang out with us, come on. So then we have Suzanne Balko. Suzanne Balko is a neurodivergent mom of neurodivergent kids, so she can make it.
And she's got a PhD. I'm like, how?
That's very impressive.
Hyper-focusing can help.
That long?
Yeah, exactly.
Take breaks.
One of her natural tendencies is to find connections that aren't obvious to others, and this is what she uses to promote innovation at work. probably also at home to manage those kids. And then we have a surprise guest. She's a last-minute add, Priscillia Talbot from IMS. She actually is the project manager of the Diversity Charter in Luxembourg and has been working in the past 5 years on diversity projects. And they have published last year a guide on neurodiversity at the workplace and how businesses can make it easier for neurodivergent people. Does the Mentimeter work? It works. Have you all joined? Because the first question is for the audience. Ooh, okay. Well, first question, what is neurodiversity?
Okay, I will ask the question. So now you will see it on your phone.
They already answered.
Some of them.
Yes.
No?
Okay.
I don't see anything. You got
And
it?
so
There's
if
more,
they
yes.
answer, and
Try to
then
read it.
automatically-
It's
coming.
So if you answer, that's good. Continue because you have a timer. You have another
Yes.
10 seconds. That's it. Go now.
Okay. So maybe Sabrina can tell us a bit more about what neurodiversity is.
They are still coming in. 6 seconds. 5. Come on.
You
Come on.
still like.
3 seconds.
I guess we do not need to say more. Moving on to the.
And that's it. So let's see to allow. No, that's it. You are
Yes.
happy?
I'm curious.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. The concept. Okay.
I love the introverts.
Anybody who didn't answer and absolutely wants to answer? Okay.
So I'll take
Yes, you can take over. Sabrina will tell us what neurodiversity is from the perspective of a neuroscientist.
I'm very curious to see what the answers are. Well, I think people think about neurodiversity in different ways, and one possibility is to see that like everyone is neurodiverse, so everyone has his own way to be in their brain and in their behavior. But actually, there is a real perspective where neurodiversity comes from. And historically comes from a movement of autistic people who connected around the world and decided to make a movement for the rights of autistic people. And so, well, this was because there were conditions that were really difficult for them because they didn't have, let's say, the possibility to be themselves in the sense that they were stigmatized. Possibly people would talk about them like ill people, and so they found a way to make a culture, an autistic culture, and an autistic movement. Now, after that, people like ADHD, I don't like this kind of word like ADHD people because there is a deficit in it, but also dyscalculic and dyslexic people now are part of the movement of neurodiversity. So when you think about neurodiversity, you can think about the brain, but it's not just about the brain, it's about the nervous system. A nervous system means that these people that are neurodiverse, they perceive the world differently and they act upon the world differently because they perceive it differently. So it's not just a matter of thinking about pathology paradigm, thinking about they are worse than neurotypical people, they are different. And it's not about how can we solve the problem that they have. No, it's about how can we make possible for these people to feel good in this world, which is a kind of very different perspective. And by saying that, I cannot just pass over and not thinking and not talking about the spectrum, because when we pass from the manual, diagnostic manual in the past to the new ones, well, a lot of syndromes were put together and we talk now about spectrum. And what I have a question from parents and even from adults is, well, on which side of the spectrum am I or is my child? So it's about I'm on this very bottom end, so it's a light autism, or it's on the very severe autism. So we think in terms of a line, and so you have an end where you are light autistic, or the other one end where you are severe autistic, which is not the case. And if you think about more color or light spectrum, maybe it's easier to understand what a spectrum is. So if you look at the spectrum of colors, you have a blue, you have a red, but you wouldn't say that red is more of a color than blue. They are just different, right? And it's not to say, well, where is the cutoff of the blue or the cutoff of the red or the green? Well, it's more a spectrum. And this is exactly what we should think about when we talk about spectrum. And if this is the way we think about, then you can see I tried to make kind of a representation there with a spectrum where you have pragmatic language, let's say, anomalies or differences in social awareness, differences in sensory processing, repetitive behaviors. I won't say much about that because there will be the chance to say it later on. But so some people can have more difficulties in the social interaction and in the social communication, whereas other people may be more may have more difficulties in I don't know, repetitive behaviors or stimming. So that doesn't mean that one is more affected or has more difficulty than others. It's just different, and they have different ways to perceive the world, and they need different support to feel better. And nowadays, actually, it's more represented by a wheel. And as you can see, there are different aspects at the end of the wheels on the circumference. And so you can have like a degree for each aspect, which is more how a person can be different. And this is easier if you think about it to explain that even to people like beloved people, to understand how the person is different. Okay? So, for instance, there may be people that are speechless, but they can function very easily, even if they're speechless. So there are people who could, through facilitated communication systems, say their opinion, and they would do that perfectly right. And then there may be people that are verbal and no problem in communication, but they maybe cannot take care of organization in the everyday life, like pay invoices or organizing their working time or their family time. So who needs more support? So it's quite different to talk about pathology or to talk about a spectrum in neurodiversity. And I think it's very interesting that Albert Einstein was the one saying that, well, it's a problem if you ask a fish to climb a tree, right? But if you let him in the water, it's fine. Okay? So and I think this is what neurodiversity would mean.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Could you tell us if we could actually see neurodiversity in the brain?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Sabrina. So that's my part. That's the job I do every day. I look at the brain. Oh, we look with the team that is hiding everywhere. We look at the brain. So we can see, I will show you later the concept of spectrum. We see it every day. But that's just to introduce what we do. So we use EEG, electroencephalogram. So that's normally what neurologists do to see if there is epilepsy. But we go a step further after that. We look at the raw signal of the brain. We measure the electricity and the different brain waves that exist in the brain. And then we do analysis. Oh, the computer do it for me, because if I should do all the calculus, we're dead. So the computer is really a big help for that. And we can see that's just a part of what the kind of results you can get by doing 10 minutes EEG with eyes open and with eyes closed at a rest state. So the person is just sitting on the chair, has a cap on the head with small sponges with water, and then we can measure the EEG. And so we can obtain Some of the pictures you have here, it's to see the example of dysregulation that can exist. You can have too much brainwaves or not enough brainwaves, and depending which brainwave is lacking or is too much or in which area, it gives us an idea of the symptoms. So the goal is to see where the symptoms are located in the brain. Then you can see some here. It's pictures with what we call functional connectivity to see if the different parts of the brain can communicate, etc. So that's what we do every day. We have people coming with different issues, anxiety, ADHD, whatever, and so we can have a look first at the state, what's happening inside the brain, and where does the problem come from. So this is a really, really good example of what a spectrum is, because this is different clients, totally different, boys, girls, different age, and they all have a diagnosis, an official diagnosis from a psychiatrist of autism. So you can, just by looking at it, there is sometimes some similarity, but in fact, even if you don't know how to read a brain map, you see the color that shows the dysregulation that can be really, really different from one person to another, and that shows this concept of spectrum and the different symptoms. For example, this one has some learning issue, the top one, with some attention difficulty and sensory issue. This one was suffering from depression and also anxiety, and was super, how do you call it? No flexibility, so she was super strict. The other one was suffering from sleep issue and snoring during the night, and this one was having depression and anxiety here. So, but in fact, they all had autism too. And it's the same for ADHD. So that's my brain up there. That's Francois' brain. I don't know if he's there hiding. So we both got a diagnosis. So Francois, I don't remember how old you were when 40. I made a mistake, Severina, I was 25. I'm not a kid, sorry, I did a mistake. So I was 25, and that's other of our clients also receiving an ADHD official diagnosis. And you see, it's super different. So we know there is some cluster well known and identified in the EEG. For example, if you look in the literature, the most common profile of ADHD in the EEG is too much theta and not enough beta. So that would be, this one is too much theta, we have the green-orange one, and if the beta would be blue, that's typical profile. But in reality, there is so many different ones. So that's what we do first. Do you need to ask a question? Yes. Thank you very much.
So, how would neurodiversity represent as symptoms or traits? Do you have any real examples for the audience who would like to? Who want to start? So, let's start with Antonia.
Oh gosh. Put me on the spot. I'm trying to think of something.
So we have time blindness.
Yeah, actually, that is a very good example. So, something. Sorry, guys, that you're running behind me. One of the things that I always do when I'm meeting a new client as a coach is the first thing I do is say, I am now setting a timer on my phone. I can guarantee most of the time I'll press snooze or turn it off and completely ignore it, which gets me into trouble sometimes. And I always have to allow a large amount of extra time at the end of whatever meeting. So if it would normally take me an hour to do a meeting, then I allow 2 hours. And I'm still going, I'm really sorry, I really have to go now because it's now been 2 hours. So for me, a large amount of it is awareness. I know I'm going to do this now. I was saying before this that I did get myself into trouble when I had a meeting, and I thought I was supposed to be home by 7:30 to go out to dinner. So I casually drive home at 7:10, it's all fine. And my husband was like, no, the restaurant was actually booked for 7 o'clock. You really need to look at this. Which my husband knows what I'm like now, but if you keep doing stuff like that constantly and you do it to your friends all the time, it begins to wear on people and cause problems. So yeah, that's one thing of masking. Trying to think what else, but I'm gonna let
Any
somebody else.
any other symptom? I do have an example. For example, I do like to gather a lot of information, and I do have a lot of information. But the moment I have to recall that information, my brain is like blank, nothing. So I have all the information on autism, but if you straight ask me, hey, can you explain autism? I'll be like, what is autism? I have no idea. Even though I hyperfixated on it for the past year and have literally all the information. And it's when I get asked straight away, like, I do not remember any of it. It's impossible. Thank you, brain. It's very embarrassing. Any other?
I have one I can think of.
Cool.
So for me, if I look honestly at me, the most first symptoms that is the great example to show the difference between being neurodivergent and not being neurodivergent is the hyperfocus we were speaking a little bit. If I'm on vacation or on weekend, I'm not at work, and I do an activity I like, everybody loves to spend time in an activity that you like. It can be gardening, drawing, reading, whatever you like to do. But the difference with being ADHD is that, and the time blindness, is that I can start the day with video games, for example, or reading. Let's take reading because video games are a sensitive subject. I love reading, and I can start my book at 9 a.m. on a Sunday, and I can just keep reading until it's dark outside, and I haven't eaten during the day, I haven't drank water at all, I did not realize I needed to go to pee, and then I was just like, oh, it's been 10 hours, I'm hungry by the way, I'm super hungry and angry. And that's, yeah, when I'm on vacation and my man is working at lunch, he's always sending me a message, hey babe, don't forget to eat, please. So that's typical of it. So that's what I can think about.
Post-its. I am the queen of post-its. No, it is a symptom. It is a symptom. It's a symptom. Because I think one of the other things that it manifests itself is procrastination.
Yeah.
How many of us have a problem with not doing something that they have to do? So I figured out a long time ago that making lists of things wasn't helping. It was like the same thing as everything that I have to do, right? You just see this mountain, this pile, and you can't start. So I found if I break it down by putting one thing on one Post-it, it was manageable. Even if my entire door was plastered with Post-its, because I had so much different things that I had to do, I would just say, okay, when I go through the store, I'm going to pick one Post-it, just one, and when I go out that door, I'm going to do that one thing. And you get the gratification of then getting to crumple up the Post-it, but I think it's also a way to help break down things. I think that we get kind of overwhelmed by everything, and because we are overwhelmed by everything else going around, organizing and breaking things down is very difficult. And so for me, that's one strategy that I've found to help with the procrastination, because I don't have time to procrastinate.
I've come to realize that I procrastinate because the only drive my brain has is impulsivity or urgency. So if I don't really have to do it, why do it? But if, like, I was trying to learn all my speech and I spent the entire weekend cutting my fringe.
Thank you.
Not my bangs.
She was calling bangs and in English. I was like, that is not correct English, that's American English.
Because that was and it was like 100% more interesting than to actually learn my speech. And then I did not learn it until 20 minutes before it started, because then it was urgent for me to learn it because I didn't want to embarrass myself. And all of a sudden my brain was like, okay, I'm ready to do it now. Let's go.
Just to tell you that people are already answering it, because I didn't start the timer, but somehow it goes. We are learning tonight, so
That's okay.
I have two other examples maybe that are typical, more ADHD, but goes with procrastinating. It's initiating a task, but not all the tasks. For example, sometimes when I'm tired after a day of work and I go home and I know that taking a shower, a hot shower, will really felt great, and I love water. But sometimes I can just sit in the bathroom on the toilet for 20 minutes and be like, okay, I need to undress. And so sometimes my boyfriend came back, he's like, you're not in the shower? That was not the plan. Like, I'm processing. I'm going to do it.
I can point out a mistake she made. She sat down.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have ADHD, you don't sit
I avoid
down.
the couch at all
The sitting
costs.
pit
We
is-
get rid of the couch for that reason. We don't have a couch now. And it felt great because I do a lot of things when I go back home. I clean, I do the dishes, but once I stop starting again, I'm like a diesel. I'm not starting again so fast. So.
Sorry, very quickly, task initiation. If you want an ADHD, a neurodiverse person to clean their house, tell them you'll be around in 5 minutes.
Oh yes.
Urgency.
It will be done in 20 minutes. It would never happen.
And one of the things that I do, that my husband was just like, really? I pay a cleaner because my house is never clean, otherwise it's like, oh, yeah.
So let's move on to the next question. And it is, why do you think women are less likely to get diagnosed? The audience has already answered.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're pretty on topic.
I like the men were study subjects.
Yes.
Because to be honest, that's a general theme in medical research
Yeah.
and medical
So last-
knowledge.
It
And
works with everything.
Last chance, 10 seconds.
But we do have like the answer already on
Yeah.
a couple of times, and
Oh, I
like
love
it
that.
says, we mask better.
I love the not enough
Absolutely.
attention.
Studies focus on men.
Better masking.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. That's also true.
How ironic, not enough attention paid.
But yeah, let's
I
focus a
love
little bit.
it's just hormones.
Okay, well, let's
Because
focus
that's
a little bit on the masking, and maybe Sabrina can give us a little insight on what masking is and how it affects us.
I feel comfortable sitting, so if you're okay, I will stay here. Well, actually, when you think about autism, not only men were the ones studying more about that, but also typically people would think about a boy or a man who is having a meltdown or who is not able to manage his frustration or making some aggression. But in fact, there are different profiles in autism, and well, the big differences between boys and girls or men and women, and that is in their way they behave. So whereas you have boys that get frustrated and can start doing a meltdown, being aggressive or hitting themselves, while girls don't. They just stay in the background and think, I don't get it. I'm trying to get it, I don't know what's happening. And so what they do, and so they actually are two persona. And one is the persona that goes to school, to work, and is outside, and everything. Every person can think, wow, she's brilliant, she's fantastic, she's very good, she's a great, what should I say, pupil, so teachers are very happy with them. But when she comes home, well, parents say something different. They tell me, oh no, it's impossible, she's screaming, she doesn't want to do anything, she just goes into her room, she just locks it up, and she doesn't want to have anything with us, and she's really having that behavior that is the meltdown that she didn't have at school. And the reason why this happens is because she is masking all the time. So the first thing that girls and then women, or teenagers, do is, okay, I don't get it. I have to understand how it works. So I will make a step back and look at someone who's successful. what does this person do? Okay, so I will do the same thing. How does this person get dressed? Pink is great, is successful. Okay, I will have everything in pink. And she will do the same thing even for more micro things. So she will try to see how these people can move their muscles of face to do certain expressions. But of course, one example or a few examples are not enough. And she will focus on something which is movies, series, so something that she can just go backwards, look again, and look again, and look again, to see exactly how it happens and what happens in which sequence, so that she's very sure she will be able to do it again. And after that, she will try it out, and she will be maybe even with a group of friends, and everyone will think, wow, that's fantastic. And she will come to see, well, I have a diagnosis, I'm neurodiverse, and everybody will say, oh, come on, don't say that, it's impossible. You are great, you are social, you have great success in professional life, you have a family, you have everything. It's not possible. And this is exactly what happens. And then women that do not show themselves and their challenges in everyday life, they don't feel anymore who they really are. What is their identity? Because they did so much masking that they actually think I'm despicable, so I won't show myself, because if I show myself, other people won't like me anymore. So they will be trapped in this masking. And well, that's, for instance, the reason why women are more successful as neurodiverse women to find a job, because they're good at interviews. And then when they start, and when they start, they can focus on what they do. They actually go even workaholic. I know women that tell me, I like so much my job because I like animals, which is also typical. They like so much animals, and so this person decided to find a job at a veterinary. And she said, well, I work until 5, then I badge, so I'm no longer paid, but I stay there another 3 hours. And this is for her impossible to change. But then she has burnout. She has burnout because she has to do masking, she has burnout because she stays there so much hours, and she doesn't think about her health, and she doesn't think about what she needs. And people around her cannot think about that she needs help, because she doesn't show that she needs help. And because she has difficulties asking for help. And because she has difficulties saying, no, I cannot do it now. No, she will go on and on and on.
There's also a lot of gaslighting when we say, oh, this is a little hard. Everybody's like, no, it's not. So you're like, oh, okay, so then it's not. A lot of time your experience is not validated, and everybody seems to have such a fun time, and it's so easy that you just like, why isn't that easy for me? I don't understand, and then maybe I'm just very sensitive. Maybe I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to toughen up a little bit.
That's the worst feeling.
Yeah, I was told that a lot.
Yes, I was too as a kid.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important not to mask too much.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
somehow women think, make it till, or fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
And this is detrimental for the mental health, physical health. So not only you lose your identity, but you can have a burnout, you can be depressed afterwards, and that's going to be difficult then. So this goes on in the next, probably.
Yes, exactly. What I would say, I am this considered high-functioning neurodivergent person because I have zero problem at work. I had zero problem at school. I had very high grades because everything was easy for me. Somehow I understood stuff very easily. I have no problems at work, but I have no private life because I mask so much during the day that I come home and I just want to be alone.
Yeah.
So I almost have no friends. I'm having relationships, romantic relationships. I don't even I'm sorry, I don't understand any of it. But it's really hard to maintain hobbies because I gave everything during the 8 hours of work. The moment I get out of my house, it's probably even 10 hours because again, I'll stay the 2 or the 3 extra hours if needed, no problem. But then I come home and I have no energy left to mask for my family, for my friends, for my relationship, and then you just like, or not really, I don't feel high functioning because I don't have a private life next to work.
Yeah.
I can do my work, but that's it.
But that's exactly the problem of high functioning, low functioning. There is no high, there is no low.
Yes.
There is different. So for some things, you say yourself, it was easy for me to understand, I don't know, at school everything was fine, blah, blah, blah. But then the other side of the coin was for you the difficult part.
The relationships.
Yeah.
Well,
I absolutely hate the term high functioning because of
that's what I said, I'm considered.
yeah, because so I had a psychologist say to me, you just make different choices to other people. Like everybody in the whole world has choices to make. We all have choices every day, different choices. So you and I both have different neurodivergence. I might make one choice, you make another choice. That doesn't mean to say that I'm any more high functioning than you, or you are than me, or of anybody else. It just means that I've made a different decision on something. So yeah, it drives me insane.
High functioning is a word that was invented by neurotypicals because they like to compare each other. So they start to compare us two against each other. That's the only thing. Because if you don't compare yourself, you cannot be high functioning. You can only be high functioning if you take another person and say, this struggles more, so I'm better, I'm high functioning. And if you stop comparing, there's no high functioning. So, while we're on the topic, so maybe somebody can tell me a little bit about the struggles neurodivergent women face at work. I think the audience also gave you some examples.
Yeah, I mean, it's exhausting, I have to say, because you're constantly having to do the work that you have to do, and you're constantly having to understand how to interact with the different people, and some people are more sensitive to other things than others, and for me, for example, I can get quite sensitive to like auditory responses, so sounds and being overwhelmed by the stimulation of those sounds. And so sometimes you might be in a room where there's, like at least my office environment, it's very open, and sometimes there's a lot of people there and they're all talking at the same time. And some people have inside voices and some people don't. And so, and not even just talking about concentrating, because concentrating is another aspect of that. For me, it's also, like I said, the noises themselves, like it's an additional stimulus. So I don't know if, the best way that I can describe it is imagine that you have like, a radio on in the room, and it's constantly running, and it's constantly running, and it's constantly running, and it gets louder and louder and louder, and eventually you can't even hear yourself in your own head because it's so loud. You're just overwhelmed by all this noise around you and all this stimulation around you, because it's not even always the sounds, sometimes it's also the lights in the room, or the sun outside is just too bright today, and and you put all that together, and then so sometimes then by the end of the day, I'm just totally tapped. Like I have nothing left. My brain has been overwhelmed all day long, and then I go home and I have 3 children, and they all want mama because mama wasn't home all day, and then you have, I want to do this, I want to sit on your lap, I want to do this, and you're like, I'm overwhelmed, like stimulus, please get off me, like I can't take the stimulus anymore. And this is how just getting through the day is. Then you have to do your work, and so it can be very overwhelming, and at the same time, I have to look normal. I can't freak out. My God, if I freak out, it's like if no one will understand, so sometimes you have to go off and try to find a center again. I don't know, at some point I started to do like, not meditation, but just sort of like trying to find ways to find some sort of inner peace, because if you don't, eventually, yeah, you will totally lose it. Totally lose it. And I admit that, okay, at home, that's my safe space. Sometimes I do totally lose it because I just can't anymore, you know. But yeah, it's much more of a constraint, and especially being a woman, I think that, you know, like where men could get away with letting off a bit of steam by being a bit aggressive, that's absolutely taboo for women, even now in this day. So.
That's good. Thank you very much. There's another thing I would like to add, and it's this consistency that is expected at work. They expect you to work at the same level of energy and focus and attention the 8 hours during the 5 days in the week, which is for me and my brain completely impossible. I have days where I can do a week worth of work in 4 hours. That's like a super cool day. And then I have days where I just absolutely get nothing done. My brain is like, nope, not today. And so I just wanted to ask real quick, just ask real quick Priscilla if she could tell us a little bit from the business perspective how struggles can impact business and which struggles maybe you have realized people have at work.
Just to give you a little bit of context, I didn't think I was neurodiverse until tonight, but I've been working with my team on the subject of neurodiversity for more than a year, and with the diversity charter that every organization can sign, my role is to give companies tools to help them address diversity and inclusion in their companies and with their employees. And so we realized a few years ago that neurodiversity was really a subject that companies wanted to address and wanted to have more information on what is it, what can we do to help neurodiverse people at work, and how to have awareness. And that's why I'm here tonight. And to give you a bit more of what is happening in companies for women with neurodivergence. I think that most of them are facing intersectionality. I don't know if you're aware of this subject. It means that in you melt different criteria that you can be discriminated against. Being a woman is a criteria you can be discriminated against. Being neurodivergent too, being black, having 3 kids, having a part-time, all of these things can restrain and refrain you in your successful path in your company. So yes, women with neurodivergence have to fight to show that they are enough, that they can do a good job, that they are good at what they do, just because they are women. And so if you add all we've been talking about tonight, that's a lot. That's a lot to handle for one people. And most of the time, women are not, don't have a lot of help when they come back home. So once again, it's a lot for one people. And also they face a lot of stereotypes regarding neurodivergence because people don't know about the subject. There is no awareness made. So even if you come to see your employer and say, okay, sometimes I just need to sit back and have a quiet moment just for me. Do you think there is a room I can use sometimes? People will just tell me, okay, but why? You're completely normal because you're masking so well. You're doing a great job and I don't know why you should have this instead of other people. So that can be very difficult. So yeah, just my point is that they have a lot of different, how to say that, criteria that can restrain. So that's why awareness is important.
It's a circle, right? You want to be included, so you start masking so much that you look neurotypical, and then when you say, hey, I will need like a little bit of accommodations at work. They're like, why? You're completely normal. No, actually, I'm neurodivergent. No, you're not.
Everybody's a bit like that.
Oh, gosh,
That is my favourite phrase.
I can't this one anymore.
Oh yeah,
I can't.
yeah. We are all a little bit autistic. Or we are all a
Makes me
little bit.
sick. I wish they can
Oh,
spend
we all
some
have
day
a
in
bit
my
of
brain.
ADHD. No, actually, we don't. Yeah. So another like big struggle for me at work is the open space.
Oh.
I have internal meltdowns at least 3 times a day when Wednesday is the day where everybody has to be at the office. There's no home office for everybody for us. This is usually the day I have like 3 to 4 like inner meltdowns or like bathroom meltdowns because they all talk at the same time and have discussions and phone calls and Skype meetings and nobody seems to be bothered and I cannot focus and it's very loud and it's horrible and I want to cry a lot. Yeah.
The headphone are my second boyfriend.
Oh,
I have
yes.
them all the time on noise
Yes.
cancelling. Everywhere my worst nightmare is letting them at home and needing to took the train in the morning and then I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Unfortunately, noise cancelling headphones do not work with Italians.
And also, I don't know if some of you have that, but the hyperactivity is really painful in the body. I don't know if someone has that. But masking hyperactivity, maybe you can tell, I haven't checked myself if I move super like a lot or not. I try to contain myself, but sitting here is just painful. To give you an idea, it's like it's burning from my toe to here, and I just feel like I need to run like that. It's super
I
like
think I'm starting.
and I try to mask that because you can move like that in front of a client. That doesn't work. So I do that with my toes all the time in the shoes, so nobody can tell.
That's
So
not
that helps.
stimming, by the way.
Yeah, also it helped me to survive through an appointment when you need to sit 1 hour. And also at home we have a separate, I don't know how you call that, a couverture, beds, a cover. Thank you. So we have a separate one because my boyfriend, I drive him crazy because my feet just dead all the night. So we have a separate one to survive.
So, what about
say something?
anyone? Do you also stim? Right. So we know she stims by doing this with her feet.
I was just saying, I've been sat
Right
doing this
now.
all night. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I have a slightly longer fingernail and I will poke it in. Because if, like you say, if I'm running around or jumping up and down and everything, it can be quite irritating for people. You do end up looking a little bit odd if you start doing that. Whereas I can sit there and I always have my thumbs as well. I don't have to worry about a fidget toy or anything. My thumbs are always there. So I just sit there and we were talking before this saying, oh, it's okay, we can all sit there and do whatever we need to do. And I was like, if I sit there playing with like a key ring in front of everybody or pulling the cover off my phone, it is going to drive everybody insane. Like, you can't just sit there through meetings and everything, just doing whatever you need to do. We were discussing clicking pens.
The clicking pen.
And the worst thing about clicking pens is that we need to do it to stimulate yourself.
Yeah, but it's annoying.
And then it drives me insane! I can't focus on what you're saying because you're clicking a pen! The other thing, I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but I've seen a brilliant phrase, I think, on Facebook recently, that was saying, I need to turn the car radio down so that I can find a parking space.
Yeah.
That sums it up! So, one of the things that I do saying about overstimulation at home and everything, my husband is now at the point where he knows that this is going to happen. I'm like, you have got to turn the TV off, you have to mute it. Can one person speak at a time, please? No, I cannot cope with 2 children shouting at the same time, plus my husband trying to ask me what I want for dinner, because I'm like, and it drives him insane. He wants to have music playing and the kids want to talk to me, but I'm like, I just cannot process one noise, and I will process on the cat instead. Instead of everything else.
Well, while you're at it, why don't you talk a bit more about the struggles that we have in our private lives? I can see one here right now, which
yeah, I
hurt
definitely.
a little bit, having friends.
misunderstandings and not being understood. I think, that's a very accurate. I would say a lot of things suddenly become clear when you are either looking at being diagnosed or you're diagnosed.
You will be close to people that are neurodivergent too.
Yes.
Because the other one, you drive them crazy. And they don't understand.
Just thinking, or you drive them crazy.
Yeah.
Possibly drive them crazy as well.
So we said we have problems with overstimulation at work, and then you come home and then you have children that want to touch and yell and scream and sing, and usually always sticky for some reason. Which is sensory, very
The cat is not speaking.
bad.
The cat is silent at home when you go back.
Your cat might be. we actually, I have two cats, and I call one of them the ADHD cat, and the other cat because this cat is just like going berserk around the house. I'm literally like, if I could look at my children, one of them is definitely diagnosed with ADHD. One of them, I think, possibly has signs of autism, but is not diagnosed. And I literally look at the cats and go, that one is the ADHD cat. That's the one. That's the other one. Because,
I'm lucky. She's autistic. The cat. She doesn't like when you move a thing. She says.
I do believe that neurodiverse people are actually just human cats, because I have this thing where I'm like, hey, I would like to have pets now, like please touch me, and I'm just like, nope, not anymore, thank you.
I'm sleep all day.
Now it's too much. And then, leave me alone, don't touch me, and don't talk to me for 2 days.
And sleeping all day,
No, I'm just like,
eating.
I'm like, seriously, how good do cats get it though? If you live with a nice family or whatever, it's like you just get to sleep and eat all day. And if you feel like it, you could go with somebody and maybe get a cuddle, and if they annoy you, then you can just go off and scratch them if they annoy you. I'm like, that sounds brilliant.
absolutely. What about isolation?
I'm going to pass the microphone.
Yeah. Anyone want to talk about isolation when you are neurodivergent? just me. Okay.
No, I mean, I would love to have some isolation. I can't. I roam around the house finding a spot where for 5 minutes I can have a piece of peace. It's usually in the bathroom, but that's usually not for very long.
And you see their fingers like.
Oh no, they just come full in. They just come full in. See, I tried locking the door, but that doesn't work. Then they just bang on the door, which again is just too much. So I just leave the door unlocked. They just come in.
This is why I don't have children.
Yet.
I can
Yes.
Calm down.
I would have melted on the poor kid.
And this is why I don't have friends, because
Yes. But for me, growing up, so I never understood. But my friends always had this inside joke, and they would be like, they would tell me a time when we had to be there, and then I would show up. Of course, not at the time, but they were was okay because they had all agreed ahead of time that they were going to show up at the time when they thought I was going to come. So
it's called accommodation.
yes, that's why they're still my people.
Yeah. Or telling your colleague it's at that time, but it's 20 minutes earlier.
Oh, we have talked a lot about symptoms and traits and struggles we have, but what about a physical impact of neurodiversity on health? Maybe Sabrina?
Well, directly, but indirectly, so it's more because of the characteristics of, well, I'm talking about autistic people more in this case, so neurodiverse in that sense. They have peculiarities, and one of the peculiarities is very often they are selective for food, so they don't eat everything, and they may have a very strict diet, and they would eat just very few kind of food, or even a few aliments. So like some people would just eat chips and just a certain mark of chips. and some others just green things. Well, usually they're not green things. They usually like white things, like pasta, rice, potatoes, chicken.
Rice chicken. My boyfriend can eat at breakfast, lunch, dinner.
But do you know why? It's because when you eat, let's say, an apple, maybe you're lucky the apple's very sweet, maybe the apple's sour,
Uncertainty.
maybe it's going to be more like, will have a different consistency, maybe it's going to be, you never know exactly what you get. White bread will always taste the same, it will always have the same consistency. You can really trust, like,
Yeah.
you're gonna get what you wanted. No surprises there. But that's very comforting.
To eat with your hands.
Yeah.
My boyfriend can just throw up if he saw me eating a chicken like that. Yeah.
But
We all have our things.
then of course gastrointestinal disturbs come along, and it's very difficult because of this reassuring feeling that you get, not only for that, because of sensory peculiarities, but it's really this familiar kind of thing. You know how it is, and there are kids that don't eat when they're at school, they just eat at home. There are kids that don't go to the bathroom at school, but they just go at home. So can you imagine how this is possible and what this then has as effect? So it's very important, but it's very difficult to change a diet or to add nutrition to the diet. Yeah.
Can you help them in a way? It means that issues, how to get some real solutions to make the life more comfortable.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, excuse me. Yes. So thank you for explaining all the symptoms, all the issues. But can you offer, as a physician, as a specialist, some solutions, some help, so that the life of this person is getting better, easier, more comfortable? I mean, at the beginning, you have explained about the waves, the different waves in the brain. Is the music, classical music, a help for the waves? Because that's the beat of heart, for instance. This kind of solution, can it help? Or are you making diagnose without treatment or with treatment?
This is, we're actually gonna get there.
So I will do a quick answer as I will go further more deep inside with that. So we don't do diagnose because we don't have any psychiatrist or doctor, and it's only them that can put an official diagnosis, but we can see pattern on the brain. So if we see any suspicion of anything and it's outside of what we can do, we will always recommend people, depends the age or what they have, where to go. But you can come to us without a diagnosis or with a suspicion or with just feeling lost in life. We do treatment with the brain waves, and music is especially a big part of it. We don't present it here, but it's a topic, something you can use at home that use music. So we have classical music, music for kids, more noise, etc. Depends what people like. With filtered music, and that you can use to regulate the nervous system. The best effect we had is this kid, I can't forget this young lady. She was autistic and non-speaking, or diagnosed by a psychiatrist, and she did neurofeedback, and we called this music the safe and sound protocol. And after 5 years without pronouncing a word, she started to pronounce and repeat words. And we were all crying with the mom at the phone because we were not expecting that. So yeah, well, I will come back to it later.
Yeah, we will touch on diagnosis and accommodations and everything right after the next question is if neurodiversity impacts our mental health. And I think Mélanie had something to say about it.
I don't know if you were over. The list is really long. In fact, I can say 1,000 things. The most known one are the anxiety. because masking and feeling different can bring so much anxiety. I can still remember before getting diagnosed a few years ago, this frustration, feeling like, why I am not able to do that simple thing that everybody seems so easy, why I'm stuck here, why I'm not able to do that. Instead, I put all the effort in it and it's still not working as I would like to. So this frustration, this anxiety, and you feel it since I'm a kid, you feel it that you're different. But you can't put a name on you. Like, I don't feel it, but I don't know why. And it's when I started to work and to have more knowledge on the brain and everything that was like, and making presentation to people about learning disabilities, I was like, I can tick so many things to the severe grade. I was like, oh, and that's how I ended up to a colleague of mine and said, oh yeah, you have ADHD for sure. But I grew up with this idea of being a girl that likes to talk and that is energized and always smiling. And it was more personality traits than neurodiversity. And the same for a lot of people with autism. They are always start with being introvert or being like timid or stuff. In fact, it's a little bit more than that.
My tag was, I'm an Aquarius. It explained 80% of my symptoms. I'm not social. Well, she's an Aquarius. She goes to people. That's normal.
My man is a Virgo, so what do you do that?
80% was explained by Aquarius, and I just ran with it. And the only few friends I have are really into astrology, so they understand me because they know I'm an Aquarius. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess it works. So let's just
so yeah, no, it's not a mental health problem. But
I don't like hugs and kisses because, well, I'm an Aquarius. We don't like showing emotions, you know. And it's just like, oh yeah, totally get it, no problem.
It's not a mental health problem, it's a horoscope problem.
I mean, whatever could explain something and people wouldn't touch me, I liked it. I took it. But yeah,
so yeah, anxiety is a big subject because I remember first time I met Francois. He said, do you feel anxious? I was like, no, not at all. I was not realizing it. Today I laugh about it, but we have a great time with that. So anxiety, and the problem with anxiety is that it brings a lot of other things with that. It never comes alone, unfortunately for us. You have rumination. So I was able to speak like today and thinking about my whole day or tomorrow or a dream I was having 10 years ago, or oh yeah, I remember I ate pasta that day. And this was going on and on and on while I was speaking or while I was sometimes trying to study. Was not a good student, was not the best one, but not the worst one. And you also then to sleep. It took me, before doing neurofeedback and all the stuff, took me more than 1 hour. The moment I went to bed to fall asleep, then you're tired. When you're tired, it's harder to focus because your brain has less energy than usual. So you have sleep issue, you have emotion management issue, and also a big topic with ADHD is TBI. Trauma, brain injury. Because if you have impulsivity, if you have hyperactivity, and you have the tendency to chase the dopamine you're lacking in the system, you can do and have some behavior that are really dangerous. Driving super fast, having car accident, doing extreme sport, or taking bad decision and you fall, or also then substances. Addiction, I know it's a big topic here in the area, but it's in fact ADHD undiagnosed or PTSD. Also, a lot of people with ADHD have PTSD. And the list can go on and on. Like when people come to me, like I suspect I have ADHD, I can see a list of all the things that comes with it because of the ADHD and the struggle. So yeah.
There are some other conditions that, for example, I suffer from that I really enjoy. It's called delayed sleep phase disorder, which literally just means your circadian rhythm is not at the same time than everybody else. Well, you start to wake up, have this get out of the REM sleep and go into the light sleep phase at 4 in the morning. It happens to me at 9 a.m. When at 9 p.m. most people get melatonin and the brain's like, ooh, let's start shutting down, it's time to go to sleep. my brain gives me the 5 p.m. like energy kick
That's time to clean
at
the
9 p.m. and be just like, hey, you know what? It would be super cool if you would clean your shower with a toothbrush, you know? That would be so awesome. Or hey, what about if you would cut your fringe? Like, that would be like so cool to do at 10 p.m. At night.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is like
Rearranging my room when I was a kid at midnight.
Oh,
that's normal.
God, yes.
1,000 times. Because I feel bored of the decoration. I was like, let's move the bed at midnight. Everything was happening.
everything is delayed.
And like it's so frustrating still now to, like, it's not okay to do it, but like I can't not doing it. I need to do it. Like no. If my boyfriend try to say no, don't buy that or don't do that, hey no, I don't think so. I'm gonna do it. And sometimes super hard because ADHD, I feel sometimes it's fighting against yourself. And when it's a day with that, I don't like it at all. When it's a day okay and I can handle and I can get all the good side of ADHD because it's not always only struggle, fortunately. When you can get that, it's okay, but when it's a day without and you have all the symptoms to the max and you can't control the brain, you can't control the behavior, what you say, you feel like, it's like someone is taking the rein and you're like,
There's
please
also
stop it. Let me,
logical demand avoidance.
like, give me back my control. I don't want to be like that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I've just remembered another thing with ADHD. When your brain completely shuts down, and you cannot function, and it's always at the worst possible moment.
Yeah.
I have been stood in front of, no joke, the Grand Duke of Luxembourg, got halfway through a sentence and gone,
Blacked out.
what the heck are you supposed to do in that situation? There are no guidelines of like, how do you get, I mean, I can't even remember what I was actually saying at the time, but I just sort of, but I mean, now I know what it is. At the time I didn't know what it was. And when I was doing my exam to pass my coaching certification, I remember the tutor knew that I had ADHD, so she said, normally people would have like 1 day to complete this exam at home. I'm going to give you 2 days. And I was like, oh, don't be silly, I don't need 2 days. I love this subject. I am hyper-focused on this subject, I'm fine. And I was like, okay, whatever. I got to the end of the first day and was like, I need to finish this, and was like, uh-oh, brain has frozen. I literally like, I couldn't have told you what coaching was at the time, and it was like I've been studying it for months. So yeah,
That's the recall.
yeah, and it's not so bad as an adult because I know. So you're saying about what could you do to put things in place? Things like I go, okay, you've offered me 2 days, I'll accept 2 days, and then when I get to the end of the first day, it's not a problem because the next day I've slept and the brain's working again. It's when you don't know. So like my daughter has exams like tests at school every week. So having to say to her, okay, take a breather, but do you know what? If you completely screw that test up, even if we know that you have studied like every day for the last 6 weeks, don't worry about it. Don't hate yourself for it, because I don't care at the end of the day. I know that you're a good person, you're a good kid, you're working your backside off, because I didn't get that. So I'm like, you know, I don't want to be putting that on her. We won't go there on other systems.
We start to be like, I start to get like some signs and everything. So yeah, very fast.
Self-confidence
Other-
is the reason why we have
All those
isolation.
things are like called comorbidities, like pathological demand avoidance, where you tell me to do something and I was about to do it, but because you tell me to do it, I'm not going to do it anymore. No, thank you. Rejection sensitivity disorder, which every type of rejection, even from a person you don't know, really hurts like you just broken up with a person. And there's a lot more, but unfortunately we do not have a lot of time anymore. Sabrina brought out also epilepsy, and unfortunately, if you're interested in that, you can go and talk to her after the event, because we do have of course, the accommodation parts and also the diagnosis part we have to go through really fast. So my next question, is that we do have so much information about neurodiversity now, and there's so much on it on Instagram and TikTok and everything. I was wondering if you believe that neurodiversity became a trend. Do you think people start saying that they are neurodiverse just to be cool?
Yeah.
So, question to the audience, and then I don't know if one of you would like to answer the question too.
Answer the question.
Oh.
Sorry. Doing that in one get more.
So maybe you want to.
Yeah.
So do you think it is a trend? Do you think people say they are neurodiverse just to be cool?
I think it's a mixed bag, to be honest. Like, I think there may be some people out there that might want to take advantage of it being interesting or cool, but at the same time, I think the raising awareness has allowed more resources to become available and more people to talk about it openly. For me, I have this one YouTube channel that I like to watch, which is called Mom on the Spectrum. And it's just a single mom, and she just talks about different things related to, she has autism, but I think that a lot of the things that she talks about, for me, having ADHD, it really also, ring true, and it's just helpful to see someone else, talking. And she's pretty raw too sometimes. She's actually like, I'm having a shutdown, like right now. Like, wow, that you go online and show that to everybody it's inspiring in some sense, but it's scary as hell. Like, I think, if I'm having a shutdown, I'm in my room.
It's not cool.
And I'm not, it's not so cool. So.
What do you think, Sabrina? Do you think it's a trend?
I think there is more awareness. If we think about 40 years ago, there was one autistic person every 1,500. Now we are 1 out of 80. So I don't think there is a trend in that sense. I think that it's more knowledge about that. People feel more comfortable because maybe they see that they are not always stigmatized, often still, but they have the courage. They find maybe a community that help. And also I think that clinicians are started to have another perspective.
Well, this brings me straight to the next question. Is self-diagnosis valid? Because this is a very controversial topic. Do you think if a person does some research or watch some TikTok and thinks, oh, this really talks to me, do you think they can say that they are neurodiverse? Is it valid for you? What do you think? Who wants to answer the question?
If I answer as a clinician,
Let's just do a very short answer, everybody, because we are all from different perspectives.
I think you can have a screening, for instance, a screening survey that can help you to decide to take the initiative and get diagnosed. I think that an entire diagnosis has to be thoroughly, because there might be so many overlaps and so many different factors that maybe you are not a certain kind of neurodiverse, or maybe you are not just neurodiverse, you have other aspects that you should take into consideration. So I think that a screening is a good idea because most of the people can recognize themselves in the traits described in these surveys. But for a diagnosis, I think it's really important to have a professional doing it. This is my opinion, but I think not all mine.
Same as Sabrina, because myself, by doing presentation, I was like, oh, okay, me too. I was like, But going to a person that is specialized in it, because sometimes I also see people that go to a regular GP or someone that is not specialized in neurodiversity or learning disability, and they get not the right diagnosis, or they are being gaslighting, or they say, oh, after 15 minutes, yeah, you ADHD, took the Ritalin, bye. I'm like, no. And same with autism, we hear all the day long with the team sometimes, so from non-specialists. So
I do think because now we have very big waiting lists for very different specialists. I mean, Fondation Autisme has a 3 years waiting list to get an autism diagnosis. For me personally, I do believe that self-diagnosis is valid because that's how it started for me. I went to an event and I was like, that sounds a bit like me. Then I did a lot of research and I was like, that sounds really like me. And I was like, oh, I think I have ADHD and I think I might be autistic. And I did go to a doctor afterwards that confirmed the diagnosis, and I'm still like waiting for the autism because 3 years. But meanwhile, I was like, yeah, I think self-diagnosis is valid, and we should put credit where credit is due. I diagnosed myself before everybody else could see it, and I'm not myself.
The question I always ask is, what do you want to get from a diagnosis? Like, from going to see a professional doctor and getting the diagnosis. If it's you want somebody to tell you, yeah, you've got ADHD, then I'm like, save yourself the waiting list and the time, you know, like, and just have some confidence in yourself, because nothing massive is going to change with that. If it's that you want medication, then you have to go and see a professional. But we were just saying that SCAP, I think
it's 1 year.
It's 1 year waiting list.
More.
That's for the kids. Yeah, that's the one for children for ADHD.
Adults who don't take new patients.
The adult centre,
adults. It's
their waiting list is closed. And for anybody who has heard, they are an amazing service, and I'm very proud of them. They are getting more funding, but they have not been given it yet, and it probably, if we're totally honest about it, will mean that they'll go from a part-time professional to a full-time professional. So it's going to make a difference, but it's not going to make a world of difference, you know. So yeah.
So yeah. Well, I'm sorry, we have to.
Yes.
I'm gonna get like. So while I'm waiting
We're getting the
for
massive red cards.
while I'm waiting for my autism diagnosis, I was like, oh, and I really need to know. And then a person gave me a really good piece of advice. She was like, well, start accommodating yourself like you are. See if it helps. I mean, and so this is my next question for you. It's like, maybe the audience can also give some tips and tricks. What are some accommodations we could have or implement to make our lives easier and to like turn all those symptoms and traits into strength?
Forgive yourself.
Yes.
Like be kind to yourself, because the rest of the world isn't going to. Sorry. I'm hard to. No.
Even if you're not neurodiverse, just give your tips and tricks to like survive.
I'm not on the phone. Can I give a quick one that really helped me the other day? Is body doubling.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I will talk about it. Body doubling. I will talk because.
And then that I can recommend for body doubling.
We have about 5 minutes, just saying, because that's why we don't have time to bring the microphone. So body doubling is because you procrastinate and you don't want to do things. Sometimes you just need to have a person in the room, and then you do the thing.
Really?
I don't know why, but it works.
I get 5 days of work done at the weekend because my family are around. I'm aware I'm doing it now, but it's like that's the only way I can get certain things at work.
That's why I got my master to be having friends.
Yeah, so bodily doubling is a really good one. You can just FaceTime your friend while you have to do something, and then you usually do the thing. It works.
Yeah.
That explains why I'm not doing other things on the phone.
Any other accommodations?
I can see one up there that's an interesting one. Routine.
You
know where I'm going.
Yeah, my autism says yes, I absolutely do need routine. This would be really nice if we do the same thing exactly the same way, exactly the same time. And my ADHD says jail. You want to put me to jail.
Yeah. The sensible part of my brain is going, you need to do routine. Now, obviously, there are certain things that I have to do. I have to get up at the same time each morning because I have to take kids to school or go to work or whatever. Yeah, basic things. The ADHD part of my brain goes, well, actually, a better example, I was going to have something for lunch, and I was like, I don't care what time of day it is. I don't care whether I'm supposed to have this for lunch or not. I'm going to eat what I flipping well want to eat at lunchtime. My husband was like, that's for breakfast, you can't eat that at lunchtime. Now, that obviously isn't a massive issue from my point of view, but there are certain things that can cause a problem. If you don't turn up to collect your kids on time when they finish school, which yes, I have been late multiple times for collecting my kids.
Maybe Priscilla can give us some tips how businesses could do. Sorry.
In companies and at work, of course, those advice can be really useful in your daily life, but once you're at work, what should you do? Or what can your employer do for you? Just to have hints, how much of you are entrepreneurs or working on their own? Okay, so I will talk for the two. I will not give you a detailed protocol of what you have to do in your company to have neurodiverse people on board and feel at ease, because there is no. Each people is different and will need a different accommodation. We heard it tonight. You all have different ways of facing your neurodivergence. So it's the same at work. What I can recommend is to do tailor-made. If you're working on your own, first train yourself about neurodiversity. There is a lot of tools and guides and publications that you can find online in French and English in your own mother tongue. There is a lot. So first, yes, train yourself and be aware of what is neurodiversity, and thank you for being here tonight because you're already doing it without having to do too much. So that's the first thing. And even if you're already really open-minded about the subject, training can really help you to understand how people feel and what are their needs. On the other side, if you are working in a company or if you have employees with you, you can just have a very simple document that your employees can fill in when they need to have a reasonable accommodation. Meaning that someone can just come to you and say, do you think I can bring my soundproof headset at work? Or if I don't have the money to buy it, do you think that the company can invest in this? Or can you invest in
Yes, toys.
Yeah, in toys, exactly. It doesn't cost that much. It can look like, for example, like a Rubik's Cube that the person can just touch.
I have one on my desk.
Perfect. So you see, it's very useful. It doesn't cost that much, and you can buy 2 or 3 and just spread it through the company and just say that it exists and people can use them. It's very, very important also for you to communicate and create a safe, healthy and inclusive environment in your company. By telling people that they are welcome, you can write it down in your job descriptions. For example, neurodivergent people are welcome in this company. Or just your diversity is welcome in this company. Very simple, straight to the point. You read it, you're like, okay, maybe I will just have a look. Same for job interviews, because I know that sometimes the recruitment process can be tricky. You can just talk to non-profit organizations such as FAL to find new candidates, and you can adapt your recruitment process by just asking to people, do you need any accommodation when you come? And maybe they will just tell you, if it's okay to just have 1 people in front of me, I'm okay with seeing several people right after the other, but I don't feel comfortable having 3 or 4 people in front of me talking. It can just be, okay, is the room quiet? Do you think we can dim a bit the lights? And you see that's very, very simple to do. So yeah, and one more maybe just to wrap up, avoid, if you can, psychometrical tests. Because it can be super stressful.
I'm getting pressured here. Well, yeah, a lot of businesses think that accommodations are really expensive, and often it's not. It's just maybe a dim light, a fidget toy, or noise cancelling headphones. There's so many accommodations, unfortunately we cannot go through all of them, but we do have really great ideas. You can talk to us after, during the networking part. I'll be happy to share all the stuff I have changed in my life to make my life easier. It's all super cool. I just wanted to say one more thing, and it's touching on the supplements, because supplements, I am a big fan of Brainzyme. I am also not sponsored by them, but I really, really like them. They really help with focus, energy, memory, especially the energy, because my energy goes up and down during the day. It's like a 3-year-old is in my brain. It's like turning buttons, and it's just like, hey, give up all the energy right now, so she's tired at 9:30. Or let's give all the focus on this and none of that. And those supplements really help to regulate and have this like same level during the entire day. I did put a little like discount code in the thank you email. This is what I wanted to say, so you know what it is about. And then I would also like to have Mélanie introduce neurofeedback, which is also a very alternative treatment to
It works great with a lot of intervention. When people do like supplements, they go to diet specialists, they do psychotherapy, maybe sometimes they have also medication, works fine with everything. So how does it work? I talk about electricity in the brain and brain waves and all the dysregulation we can see in the brain. Come back to the one before, yeah. I don't need that one, so you're good with it. So you can see, let's say it's a kid sitting in a chair with an EEG cap measuring the brain waves that you can see on the computer that I'm looking at. I'm checking if there is anything. Let's take the anxiety example because it's the easiest to explain when you have anxiety, stress, etc. So the goal is to teach the brain and to learn to better self-regulate. So I'm not putting things inside it, I'm not forcing him to change, I'm not doing something that can make you crazy or nothing like that. It's just seeing your brain waves on the screen and telling back to your brain what he's doing, because there is no higher instance as the brain. Nobody tells him if he's doing it right or not. He's the boss. So I'm just an in-between him and your behavior and your feelings, how you feel. And I'm letting know your brain if he's doing it right or not by giving him a feedback on the screen in front of the planet. When there is anxiety on the right brain, anxiety, no sleep, etc., a lot of rumination, a lot of red, I don't give a positive feedback to the brain. I'm not rewarding him. The screen is getting really dark, so you can still see the film going on, but your brain's like, oh, what is that? What's happening? And when the brain waves, the brainwave of the anxiety are decreasing on the left and it's more relaxed, I'm like, yes, that's what I'm waiting you to do. That's what I want, and I'm rewarding it with the light screen. And it's the best example I can give you is imagine you're in the car and the radio is going on and you can still hear your music, but it starts to a little bit, you're losing the track, and like, nobody likes that. The first reflex we have is changing the radio station because we want a clear signal, a clear music. It's exactly the same. The brain is able to do the connection between his brainwave and what's happening in front of him on the screen, because I have the real-time EEG at that time. And so it's like, oh, each time I get anxious or I lose the focus or I do something that is not right, I don't see the movie well. So if I want the movie with a good quality, I better work and do something to reduce that activity. And so by repeating it for a few sessions, usually 10 to 15 is the average we have, the brain will learn to get out of this way of functioning that has been stuck and will get better. And it's not just changing color, because changing those color will bring effect in the everyday life. People sleep better, they have no rumination, they are able to focus. Some of them can stop the medication also, we have had that. We also have no anxiety, better self-confidence. I won't list of all of them because people let us all their feedback on Google. If you want to have a look of their experience, they give us feedback on Google review, and they are the best to speak about their experience. We do that with kids. We do that. There is no specific age or condition. We do that with epilepsy also. We don't only do that. I was speaking about the music playlist. So we have the neurofeedback. We have an at-home treatment that comes with that. We also have what we call stimulation. So that's not something I will go deep with, but check on our website. We've made a page about every service we have in details and webinars in French, in English, and you will find out information. And there is the team also here after that to speak about, but we have really great results. I've done it on myself for anxiety, ADHD, and PTSD. And my boyfriend has done it also for his PTSD. He was having a panic attack during the night, every night, and having some other issue, and it's gone. It's totally gone, and it's been 4 or 5 years now. It's not coming back because it's a learning process. Your brain is learning, and it's a new skill it will keep. If you don't fall on your head and destroy your brain, it will stay. So please be careful, take care of your brain.
I have a question, please.
Can give it to this one.
Thank you. How long is your waiting list?
So last year it would have been 1 or 2 weeks. Now, Patrick, where it is? July?
Yeah, 4 months. 4 months.
4 months, okay, 4 months. So for a brain map, we have still availability weeks to weeks. Yeah, sorry, Severina, thank you. So for the initial evaluation, what I was speaking about the brain map, to see first what's happening inside your brain, we can have availability weeks to weeks, depends if you're flexible or not, but to start the treatment, it's 4 months, yeah. And it's not decreasing. Every day we have 3 to 5 new demands for everything.
We have a lot of people from Neurofeedback tonight here. I recommend you go and talk to them during the networking. Unfortunately, yes, we have to wrap it up. I get a lot of gestures here. We also have Antonia who can offer coaching sessions. If you're interested, you should definitely talk to her after the event. And I just wanted to finish on a note where just we talked a lot about struggles and everything, but neurodiversity has also a very positive side. We do experience really cool things. We are extremely creative. We have creative problem solving. I have a person, I know a guy who can create an entire business plan in less than 48 hours of a successful business which runs and works.
Solution finder. When a typical person will find maybe 1 or 2 solutions, we are already thinking about all that can go wrong and all that what to do, and we have plan A, B, C, D to Z. And it's important to say that it's not always struggling. We have a lot of spark and good things. If we know how to handle our diagnosis or symptoms, we can get the best of it. And that's a good thing to add, because
it's fun, it's nice. We have
a lot of people think we use that as an excuse. To it's an excuse, you're using a diagnosis as an excuse, and it's not the point. Most of the time we try to not tell people because we don't want to be judged. But now I do it because I have the tendency, unfortunately, to cut people when they speak and I don't realize it. And so my boyfriend's always like, let them talk. Or like I say, sorry, I don't want you to feel bad, or I'm not being, impolite. It's just that if I don't tell my ID now, it will be gone. It's like, it's more than a minute.
Going back to the bad stuff. The good stuff, please. There's good stuff.
We like to eat.
Yes, we're really funny, but I think that's trauma.
Also.
Thank you very much. I know you all want to drink. It's coming. We have a couple more words from our sponsor to know he's paying for the entire party, so we have to listen. Sorry about that. But he said that he's going to make it really fast and short.
thank you very much, everyone, for coming. I hope you have enjoyed tonight's event. Thank you for organizing, for moderating. It's not been an easy task. And thank you very much to all the panelists. It was very interesting to hear. And having some neurodiversity in my own family, it was also a very nice mirror to be shown. Thank you for that. And last but not least, I also wanted to say a few words about Neurofeedback Luxembourg. We're here with a few people from the team, and if we can have the next slide. The idea was to also introduce our team and put a few faces on the names that you might see. They all have a badge tonight which says Neurofeedback, looking at the logo. And as they come up on the screen, most of them are here.
Coco is missing.
Coco is
Where is
missing.
Coco?
Coco is
The dog,
sleeping.
the dog.
The dog, yes. And the dog is also on the website. She's the one that officially has ADHD. So, so one of the cats have autism, right? And we have agreed that the dogs have ADHD. There is more information about what we do on our website. I recommend you watch a few of our YouTube videos which go in very much detail on what Mélanie was touching on, but so you can have a look behind the scenes without coming into Silversquare. But on the other hand, you're also very welcome to come and see us, contact us through the website. We don't have a secretary, so don't try and call us. So, because, you know, waiting lists and everything, so we really try to optimize the process. Yes. So we try to help as many people as possible. That's also why the team is expanding. We're training up new people. I'd like to call them to the stage. Then we have everyone here, and you can put the real face to the name. So from your very left to the right, Francois, who's created the neurofeedback in its current shape and form many, many years ago, has seen over, I think, 2,000 brains, and that's very unique, I have to say. Thanks for sticking around and doing this job. We're now doing together with Elisa, who's just joined us from Strasbourg, together with Moesha. And well, Mélanie, you've heard her speak tonight. So she really knows her trade, and we are training more people. We have more interns coming. Many people also take an interest when they finish their studies to do internships with us. It takes a long time, it costs a lot of money while they're not productive, but that is what we're taking on board from our end. And if you like to support us in our mission to help more people with neurofeedback, feel free. We have those little flyers prepared for you. They're going to be handed out and lying on the tables. Give you a bit of an idea what we do and how this could eventually help someone you might know. Thank you once again. I don't want to stand between you and the drinks any longer. So, there's drinks and food. Enjoy. Stay for a bit longer.